Good day, Junior Tickies. This is Mrs. De Mailon, and we are going to look at Activity 5, Reconciliation and Internal Control. So if we look at Activity 5, it says, the information below was taken from the books of Reflect Wholesalers. Calculate the correct debtors control account and the list on the 31st of August 2022. Use the table provided. So it's a table format and it's not a debtors control account or a debtors list. So we don't really need to go through steps 1, 2, and 3 in terms of seeing if our layout is correct or the adding or the balancing has been done correctly. You start with balances and then you make corrections as you go along. So you're going to start with step 3 and 4 if they give you a table layout. They say provide one reason why the debtors control account and the debtors list should always agree. This is like a standard theory question that comes up in all of these questions throughout many exams and past exams. Then the owner, P. Moyle, is worried that the debtors are not paying on time. List 3 measures that can be put into place to ensure they pay on time. So that's an internal control. And refer to debtors control account that they give you. And then answer the following questions. And they ask you, if the discount is allowed is 35,720 Rand, how much was received from the debtors for the month of August? So we'll look at that. And then apart from the interest charged, what else could appear in the journal debit? So you have to just think about the general journal transactions and what can be debited in the general journal. And we'll look at that as well. So if we look at the transactions, it says, use the table below to record the reconciliation of the debtors list and the debtors control account. Balances on the 31st of August before the errors and omissions is debtors control 91,380 and the total of the debtors list 88,780. So they're not reconciliated yet. So you're going to start your table with these two debtors control balance and the total as your starting point, your first line. Then errors and omissions discovered during the month. So we're going to have to just look at each one and then decide what to do with it. Where is our mistake? Number A, the debtors control balance was overcast by 6,000 Rand. So if the debtors control is overcast, it is the control column. Overcast means too much with 6,000. So you're going to have to minus 6,000. And if we link this to a debit and credit, this must be a credit entry because we are working with a current asset and minus is a credit. So we're going to credit the control account. Then number B, the total column of the debtors allowance journal was undercast with 210 Rand. So yet again, the journal was undercast. So if a journal was undercast, it is the control account that needs to be fixed. So undercast on the debtors allowance means that we have minused off 210 Rand too little. So you must minus off another 210 Rand from the control account. So credit the control account again. So if it was overcast, then you would have added it because then your debtors allowance journal would have minused too much. But because debtors allowance journal minuses the control account and we undercast, so in other words, we minused too little, you're going to just minus another amount, so the 210 Rand. Number C, a credit sale invoice of 2,900 Rand issued to Baloyi was correctly entered in the debtors journal, but was incorrectly posted to the account of Smith. So these are two debtors, and you posted to the wrong debtors account. So draw your little T accounts. We have Baloyi and Smith, and therefore it is the list that is incorrect. We posted it to Smith's account instead of Baloyi's account. So you have to minus it from Smith's account and plus it to Baloyi's account. Now technically, because it's the list that you're plusing and minusing, the effect is 0. But please show the transaction. and show that there's a plus and a minus on the list because it's a movement from Smith's account to Baloy's account, and they want you to understand that there's a movement. So please show the effect. Number D, a credit note of 520 Rand for Cooper was not recorded at all. So it's nowhere. And if it's nowhere, it's not in our books. So it is not on the control and it's not on the list. So you have to, on both, going to minus it off. So the control account and the list must minus. How do I know it's a minus? Because it's a credit note. And a credit note means that we minused the account. He's returning it. It's a reversal of a sale. Number E, an EFT payment of 5,600 Rand received from Hope in full settlement of his account of 6,000 Rand was recorded correctly in the subsidiary journal. So the journal is fine. Therefore, the control account is fine. However, the bookkeeper forgot to record the discount in Hope's account. So the difference between the 5,600 and the 6,000 is the 400 Rand discount. That was not recorded in Hope's account. So the list must minus with 400 Rand or credit with 400 Rand. Number F, a credit note of 1,600 Rand was correctly entered in the debtor's allowance journal, but was incorrectly recorded as an invoice in the account of Williams. So yet again, the list is wrong because the journal is fine, therefore the control account is fine. But in his account, we plussed instead of minus. So we added it in as a credit invoice. So we debited instead of credited. So you have to credit twice to get it away. Once to cancel the 1,600 Rand and once to actually put through the credit note transaction. So when it's an incorrect debit or credit, you always need to double up on the opposite side to correct the transaction. Now, number G, charge Baloy 300 Rand interest on his overdue account of 8,000 Rand. No entry has been made. So the 8,000 Rand is fine to know, but it's the irrelevant amount. The amount we're going to use is the 300 Rand. And it's not recorded at all. So it's the list and the control account that must be added because adding interest to the account. So through the control as the general journal entry and through the list as adding the interest. So if we look at the first or the table now, you start with the balances that they give you. The 91,390 Rand and the 88,780 Rand for the list. Transaction number A was where we had an overcost. So, but before we continue, when you have a table like this, and there is no specific mention of putting brackets or putting pluses and minuses, you have to now decide which you're going to use. You're either going to indicate plus or minus, or no bracket for plussing and a bracket for minusing. So in accounting, as usual, if we just write an amount, it's positive. If we put it in brackets, it's negative. Or you decide to use the first step or the first method and actually write a plus or a minus. Just make sure you use one or the other. So I'm going to use the bracket or no bracket option. So the first one is where we overcost the sales column and the control account was too much. So we have to minus it off the control account. So 6,000 Rand in brackets. Then number B, yet again, was an undercost of a minus. So I minused too little on the debtor's allowance journal. So I must minus some more to get it to the correct total. So minusing and putting it in brackets, 210 Rand. Then number C is where I moved the balance from the one debtor's account to the other because I posted it to the incorrect debtor's account. Show the effect. Show that there's a plus 2,900 and a minus 2,900. And then You can even make a curly bracket and put a 0. Show the transaction or the effect to show your understanding and to earn your marks. Do not leave it blank. Show the effect. Then there was a transaction that was completely left out. So in other words, there was a return that was not recorded at all. So we have to put in a minus 520 Rand for the debtors control and a 520 minus on the list. Number E is where I did not record the 400 Rand discount in Hope's account. Hope's account is the list, so I must minus off or put in brackets 400 Rand on the list column. And then lastly is where I posted to the incorrect side of William's account. I posted it as a invoice instead of a credit note, so I must minus twice. So you can now either put minus 1,600, minus 1,600, or a total minus 3,200 Rand. Both will be accepted as correct. I prefer that you show the minus, just to make it sure in your mind and in your head, and that whenever you have an incorrect debit or credit, you have to double up, do it twice on the opposite side. And then lastly, we have to charge the overdue account of a debtor, and it was not recorded at all. So we have to add it into the control account and the list, because it's nowhere, it's not in our books at all. So it has to go through both sections. Now, what is left over? I have to actually now just add up and see. Add my debtors control column, add my debtors list column, and see. Yes, great stuff. I've done it correctly. We balance out. They are the same at 84,960 Rand. Therefore, we've done our recon correctly, and I know that I am now balancing out, and I hopefully will get my full marks. Now, moving on to the theory questions. They say 5.2, provide one reason why the debtors control account and the debtors list should always agree. Now, there's a number of reasons, but the most obviously is that the debtors control is a summary of the debtors list. So in other words, everything that goes into the debtors list as individual transactions goes into the debtors ledger as final totals of journals. And both the control account and the list is made from the same transactions and the same source documents. So if all the documents are recorded properly, they should be equal. Then 5.3, the owner, owner P. Moyse, is worried that the debtors are not paying on time. List 3 measures that he can put into place to ensure debtors pay on time. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please think practical. What can we do? First of all, a positive incentive. Offer early settlement discount. So if you pay within 30 days, you get 5% off. So in order to get the money as quickly as possible, you forfeit a small percentage of the money as a discount to get 95% of the debt paid on time. Number 2, charge debtors interest on overdue accounts. So that's now a negative, okay, a deterrent. So if you're going to run over, I'm going to charge you extra money at an interest rate per month. Then practical things like send letters of demand. So in other words, if they're very, very late, then you send letters of demand via a debt collector or a attorney. But more friendly, send an SMS reminder or send another email reminder. And then finally, if it really does get to that, hand the accounts over to a debt collector to legally get the money back from them. All right, then we move on, and they say refer to the control account. So if we look at the control account here, they say the discount allowed was 35,720. How much was received from the debtors for the month of August? So if you look here, it says bank and discount allowed is total 266,040 Rand. So if that is the receipts and the discount in total, all we need to do is minus off the discount they give us. So the 266,000 is bank and discount. Minus off the discount is equal to the receipts from debtors. 230,320 Rand was physically received in cash from the debtors. Then it says 4.2, apart from interest charged, what else could appear as a journal debit? Provide one item or answer. So they're talking about this journal debits. What can lead to the 1,020 Rand apart from adding interest? Now, one thing that can be there is transferring a credit balance of a debtor to the creditor's ledger. So in other words, if you look at the little T account here at the bottom, we have a debtor that has a credit balance that we now transfer to the creditor's ledger. So therefore, you are going to debit debtors control or journal debits and credit creditors control journal credits in the GJ, and that can lead to part of that 1,020 total. Or there was a correction of an error. In other words, you posted to the wrong side, to the wrong debtor, and you have to move the balance from one debtor to another, or you have to double debit because there was an incorrect credit. Any one of those can also lead to a journal debit entry. And that is all from me, from Mrs. de Mylon. I hope that you now understand this section. And remember, consistency is key. Follow your steps slowly and surely. You'll practice, will make perfect, and eventually this section becomes easy as pie. I hope that we can continue in the next section and learn a lot more about accounting. Thank you and have a nice day.